March 2018. Facebook suspends Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm most people had never heard of. Within hours, headlines explode worldwide. 50 million Facebook profiles harvested, elections manipulated, democracy weaponized. Governments launch investigations. Facebook's stock plunges. Mark Zuckerberg is summoned to Congress. But this wasn't a data breach. No servers hacked. No passwords stolen. This was something else. A story about how personal data became a political weapon. How a company claimed it could reshape elections by knowing voters better than they knew themselves. And how the tools survived long after the company died. Here's the question: how did a little-known firm convince campaigns, investors, and governments it possessed the power to manipulate democracy at scale? Cambridge Analytica didn't start with Facebook. It started with SCL Group, Strategic Communication Laboratories, a British firm founded in the 1990s. SCL's background was military, psychological operations, influence campaigns, behavioral change in conflict zones. The pitch was simple. We don't just send messages, we change minds. SCL worked with governments, militaries, intelligence agencies. By the 2010s, it saw opportunity. Elections had become data wars. Campaigns spent billions on advertising. But most of it was blunt. Demographic targeting, age, location, gender. SCL believed there was a better way. Psychographics. Not who you are, what you think, what you fear, what persuades you. In 2013, SCL launched Cambridge Analytica. The name was deliberate. Cambridge suggested academic rigor. Analytica suggested precision. The target market was political campaigns. The sales pitch was bold. We can profile voters psychologically, predict their behavior, target them with messages designed specifically to influence their decisions. We know you better than you know yourself. It sounded revolutionary. The question was whether it actually worked. Cambridge Analytica needed data, millions of detailed psychological profiles. Traditional polling couldn't deliver that. Surveys were expensive, slow, limited. So Cambridge Analytica turned to Facebook. In 2014, a researcher named Alexander Kogan built a personality quiz app. This is your digital life. Users took the quiz, answered questions about their personality, preferences, behavior. The app was free, seemed harmless, but the quiz did something else. It harvested data, not just from users who took the quiz, from their Facebook friends. This was possible because of Facebook's API, the interface that allowed apps to access user data. Before 2014, Facebook's rules were loose. If you took a quiz, the app could access your profile, your likes, your posts, and your friends' profiles, their likes, their posts. Most users had no idea. Kogan's app was downloaded by around 270,000 people, but through friends of friends access, it harvested data on tens of millions. By some estimates, 87 million Facebook profiles. Names, locations, likes, interests, political views, relationship status. Everything Facebook knew. Kogan passed the data to Cambridge Analytica. Was it legal? The data collection operated within Facebook's platform permissions at the time, though questions remain about whether it violated Facebook's policies or applicable data protection laws. Users agreed to terms when they installed the app, but the terms were buried. Few read them, fewer understood them, and friends whose data was harvested never consented at all. Facebook's policies prohibited selling data, but enforcement was weak. The data wasn't hacked. It was obtained through permissions that were poorly designed, barely regulated, rarely understood. Facebook's data architecture enabled large-scale data collection. Cambridge Analytica leveraged those design choices. Cambridge Analytica claimed it could do something unprecedented: psychological profiling at scale. The foundation was the ocean model: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. A widely used framework in psychology for measuring personality traits. Cambridge Analytica claimed it could infer ocean scores from Facebook data. Your likes reveal your personality. Your posts reveal your fears. Your network reveals your influences. With enough data points, the algorithm could predict how you think. Then it could target you. If you scored high on neuroticism, you'd see messages designed to trigger fear. If you scored high on openness, you'd see messages emphasizing change. Micro-targeting, personalized persuasion, behavioral influence. Cambridge Analytica presented this as science, showed clients slick presentations, detailed charts, confident claims. We can shift voter behavior, win elections, change outcomes. Investors believed it. Campaigns paid millions. But evidence was thin. Academic researchers who studied psychographics were skeptical. The ocean model worked in controlled studies, small samples, lab conditions. Applying it to millions of people based on Facebook likes, that was a leap. Cambridge Analytica published little peer-reviewed research, shared few details about methodology, offered limited proof of effectiveness. Internal documents later revealed doubts. Employees questioned whether the models actually worked, whether the targeting was as precise as claimed. But the sales pitch was compelling. And in politics, perception matters as much as reality. If campaigns believed Cambridge Analytica could swing elections, they'd pay for it. Whether it worked became almost irrelevant. 2016. Cambridge Analytica became central to two of the most consequential votes in recent history. The US presidential election. Cambridge Analytica was hired by the Trump campaign. The firm claimed it ran sophisticated digital targeting operations, identified persuadable voters, delivered personalized ads, suppressed opposition turnout, millions of Facebook ads, dark posts visible only to targeted users, messages designed to exploit psychological profiles. Cambridge Analytica took credit for Trump's victory, presented itself as the secret weapon. But campaign staffers later disputed this. Some said Cambridge Analytica's role was limited, that the campaign relied more on the Republican National Committee's data operation. Others said Cambridge Analytica's models were unimpressive, less effective than traditional targeting. The truth remains unclear. Cambridge Analytica was involved, but how much it influenced the outcome is debated. Brexit. Links between Cambridge Analytica and Brexit campaigns emerged. The firm worked with Leave.eu, one of the groups campaigning for Britain to exit the European Union. Again, the claims were bold: psychographic targeting, voter persuasion, data-driven victory. Again, the evidence was contested. The UK Electoral Commission later found evidence of coordination and potential campaign finance violations that may have breached electoral rules. But proving Cambridge Analytica swung the Brexit vote? Impossible. What's documented is involvement. What's speculative is impact. The danger is conflating the two. March 2018. Christopher Wylie goes public. Wylie had worked at Cambridge Analytica, helped build its data operation. Now, he was blowing the whistle. He contacted The Guardian and The New York Times, revealed how Cambridge Analytica obtained Facebook data, how it built psychological profiles, how it claimed to manipulate voters. The revelations were explosive. Not because the techniques were new, targeted advertising existed, but because of the scale, the secrecy, the audacity. Cambridge Analytica had operated in the shadows, sold influence as a product, built an empire on data most users didn't know had been taken. Wylie's testimony shifted everything. From invisible to front-page news, Facebook's stock dropped $40 billion in days. Mark Zuckerberg was summoned to testify before Congress, before the European Parliament. Lawmakers demanded answers. How much data had Facebook allowed companies to access? Who else had done this? What safeguards existed? The answers were unsatisfying. Facebook admitted the data leak, apologized, promised reforms. But the damage was done. Trust collapsed. May 2018. Cambridge Analytica files for insolvency. The company shuts down. Employees laid off. Offices closed. Operations ceased. It looked like accountability. The bad actor punished. The scandal resolved. But the collapse was theater. Cambridge Analytica's parent company, SCL Group, also entered insolvency. But former employees quickly launched new firms. Emerdata, Auspex International. Similar services, similar clients, different names. The tools didn't disappear. They rebranded. Regulatory response. The UK's Information Commissioner's Office investigated, found Cambridge Analytica violated data protection laws, issued fines. Facebook was fined £500,000, the maximum under UK law at the time. In the US, the Federal Trade Commission fined Facebook $5 billion, the largest privacy penalty in history. But for Facebook, a company worth hundreds of billions, it was a rounding error. Congressional hearings. Zuckerberg testified before Congress. Lawmakers asked how Facebook allowed this to happen. Zuckerberg apologized, promised better protections, tighter controls, but he also defended targeted advertising. It funds the platform, keeps Facebook free, supports small businesses. The message was clear. Facebook would reform, but not fundamentally change. The company collapsed. The ecosystem did not. After Cambridge Analytica, governments promised action. GDPR. Europe implemented the General Data Protection Regulation in May 2018. Gave users more control over their data. Required explicit consent. Imposed heavy fines for violations. It was the strongest data protection law in the world. But enforcement remained uneven. Platform rules. Facebook tightened API access, restricted what apps could harvest, required clearer consent. Other platforms followed. Google, Twitter, all claimed better protections. But targeted advertising grew. Facebook's ad revenue continued climbing. $70 billion in 2019, $84 billion in 2020. Political campaigns spent more on digital ads, not less. Political consultancies. Cambridge Analytica shut down, but data-driven political consulting exploded. Firms offering micro-targeting, voter profiling, behavioral persuasion. The techniques became industry standard. Every major campaign now uses data analytics, psychological targeting, personalized messaging. Cambridge Analytica didn't invent this, but it demonstrated the commercial and political demand for such services, and the market survived. Cambridge Analytica teaches uncomfortable lessons. First, surveillance capitalism creates the tools. Facebook's business model required data extraction. The more data collected, the better the targeting, the higher the ad revenue. This created incentives. Build systems that harvest as much information as possible, make sharing easy, make privacy settings complex. Cambridge Analytica exploited this, but the structure enabled it. Second, political actors will exploit available tools. Campaigns exist to win. If data targeting works, or even appears to work, they'll use it. In competitive campaigns, strategic advantage often outweighs ethical hesitation. Cambridge Analytica sold influence. Campaigns bought it. The transaction was rational within the system. Third, voters rarely understand the infrastructure. Most Facebook users had no idea their data was being used for political targeting. No idea how much information platforms collected, how it was analyzed, who had access. Consent was buried in terms no one read. This asymmetry is structural. Platforms and consultancies understand the system, users don't. Fourth, regulation lags innovation. Cambridge Analytica operated for years before regulators acted. By the time investigations concluded, the company had shut down. The tools, however, evolved faster than oversight. New techniques, new platforms, new methods of influence. Regulation responded to the last scandal, not the next one. Fifth, the ecosystem survived. Cambridge Analytica collapsed, but targeting political advertising didn't. Psychographic profiling didn't. Data-driven persuasion didn't. They became normal. Every election now runs on personal data, algorithmic targeting, behavioral influence. Cambridge Analytica's real legacy isn't the scandal, it's the proof of concept. Cambridge Analytica shut down in 2018. The techniques did not. The company became a symbol, a warning, a case study in what happens when personal data becomes political infrastructure. But the warning was ignored. Political campaigns now spend billions on targeted ads. Data consultancies thrive. Platforms continue harvesting user behavior. The tools that Cambridge Analytica used are now standard. Voters are profiled, segmented, targeted with messages designed to exploit their psychology. And most have no idea it's happening. Cambridge Analytica wasn't an anomaly. It was an early adoption, a glimpse of how democracy competes with algorithms. The scandal passed. The system remained. Because personal data is too valuable, political influence too profitable, and the infrastructure too entrenched. Cambridge Analytica disappeared, but the machinery it exposed, that's still running.